Over to you.
Splendid, excellent. Welcome to the Commit Happy Hour on the 7th of May. This is our fifth session, I think, over the last couple of weeks. It's been very good to join you all for a little bit of an end of week drink, including a good conversation at the bar about some of the interesting topics that we have going on in our industry. Firstly, before we start, I hand you over to Stuart, who's been organising these things for us. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Commit world. Stuart, can you throw the next slide up then? There we go. Excellent. Thank you very much. So I noticed that from the registrations, we've got a lot of people who aren't members directly of Commit. They might be associated with our members and also part of the dissemination team out there. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea about the Commit network and what we do and where we came from. So in 2003, we were formed as a project by the Department of Trade and Industry to look at mobile technologies and innovations within the construction industry. That project lasted for a couple of years and presented a report back to the government to show us how much of a bunch of laggards, I think, our industry was at the time in adopting technology and innovative practices. The community that came together to create that report decided that the project hadn't finished as such, and so we continued on as a membership community. And what we have is around about 40 organisations coming from major projects, owner-operators, construction consultants, contractors, technology vendors, both hardware and software, and also our partners with the universities, with academia, with various media companies and organisations. So we are all about our members and our projects and things that we do. We're always looking to see what you're doing so we can share best practice, share innovation, and share the knowledge and experience that we've learned and learned the hard way in some cases over the last 15 years or so. So if you aren't a member, I do encourage you to sign up and come along and join. If your company is already a member, then you are by default a member because it's a company membership. And so therefore anyone within your company can come along to a session, join in with an activity, propose a project, or put an issue or a problem to the community to solve. So what I'm going to do now is hand you over to Stuart to give you a heads up about the happy hour set of webinars we've been running recently. Stuart, over to you.
Thank you, Ian. I'll just give you a pointer on the questions. There'll be some questions on the call. Very interesting session today from Michelle at QFlow. Before we get to that, just want to go through how to interact with the panel bar on the right hand side. I've got a couple of options here. The preferred option, and only if it's agreeable with the attendees, is that if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand, and I can bring you into the panelist box, and you can ask the question directly. You'll have to enable your microphone, and you can, if you like, you can actually enable your webcam as well, but that's optional. It makes for a bit more interactive dialogue and makes the session interesting as well. And you can stay on the call a bit longer to just ensure your question gets answered. So with that in mind, I'll just move on to the next slide. I want to just talk very briefly about the productivity webinars that we've been running for several months now. Improving construction productivity is one initiative that Commit's been involved with for quite a while. As you know, behind all technological initiatives is a simple goal, and that is improving productivity. And often the best improvements come from a combination of knowledge, process, and technology. Commit's been running this series of webinars for a number of years actually, recently picked up last year to engage with members and partners. We're supported by our members, O2 and Rebim. But before we can do anything, we must make some provision for change. Now, you will notice on the screen a number of areas that goes everywhere from project controls right the way around to emerging technologies and processes, through materials management, new materials methods. There's something in there for everybody, and the initiative that we started in Commit is to look at incremental improvements and change in each particular area. Now, if there's anything that does take your fancy or interest you in any of those titles, then, and you'd like to get involved, then please get in touch. We have formed an advisory group where we've got very serious, like-minded individuals who can help move the industry forwards. And even if we only have small improvement in productivity in each particular area, and it's worthy of getting involved and helping move that forwards. As I said, before we can do anything, we need to be ready for change. And one of the areas is change readiness. You'll also see that we've got an area of activity which is involving owners, because the owners can play a part in this as well. So please do get in touch. As I say, we've run a series of webinars, and we've looked at quite a few areas where productivity can be improved. And of course, it's all about looking at the forward success. So the question is, what does productivity mean to you? Do you have the means to improve productivity? What else is out there making a difference? And I mean, looking at other industries, you know, aerospace and automotive, they're doing some great things. And I'm sure there's a lot of lessons, you know, could be learned or transferred. And I'd love to hear from you. So,
Stuart, before you go on there, just very briefly, I think there's something slightly wrong with the screen. I don't know whether it's the same with everybody else, but I'm seeing a frozen screen with just the GoToWebinar viewer on rather than the slides itself.
Oh, really? Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Whether you need just to minimize your GoTo screen. Might help.
Can you see it now?
The cameras. Yeah, shut that down as well. Or shut down that panel, because we're seeing that panel. We're seeing everything that's on your screen as such.
That's it.
Lovely.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Ian. Sorry about that. Right. So on to today's topic, the Commit Happy Hour, the role of AI, artificial intelligence in the construction industry, predicting and mitigating risks. In a data-rich world, artificial intelligence is an ideal tool to solve complicated problems such as pattern recognition or forecasting the behaviour of complex systems. Solving these kinds of problems could significantly increase our ability to optimise specific processes or to detect events before they happen, and of course to analyse large amounts of data in order to make better decisions. When applied to the construction industry, AI could help us to greatly reduce risks associated with the work. For example, advanced analytics could be used to forecast what is needed for a construction site to operate, such as energy efficiency, energy consumption, or materials used. Such analysis could dramatically reduce the costs associated with wasted materials or energy consumption, and of course possible delays associated with the construction process. Moreover, AI could be used to potentially optimize the construction plans, reducing the risks of incurring delays. So moving together, I'll move on to the next slide and I will introduce Michel. Michel Fallan is a lead machine learning engineer at Qflow, where he leverages artificial intelligence to model and reduce the socio-environmental impacts of construction projects. There's a word I've not used before, social. After working as a neuroscientist for more than a decade, he decided to move out of academia in order to tackle real-world problems. You're the sort of person we like, Michel, real-world problems. He's fascinated by emerging tech, and the innovative power when applied to the construction sector. Michel received a degree in psychology and a PhD in cognitive neuroscience. During his academic career, he built up a solid expertise in mathematical modeling, statistical methods, and machine learning. So, no better than to introduce Michel. Over to you, Michel.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction and also for having me here. It's really an honor, and I'm really excited about indeed being here and talking about this fascinating topic. Before to start, can I, by any chance, reduce the window with all the names on the right? Yeah, that one. Oops, this one here.
Yeah, so Stuart, your control panel is still open, and that's all we can see on the right-hand side. So you need to minimise that, please.
Yeah. Okay, it's gone.
Fantastic. Thank you. I will just go back. Yeah, there we go. So today I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about the role indeed of artificial intelligence in the construction. And yeah, of course, if you have any question at the end of the topic, the end of the talk, be completely happy to answer to the best of my knowledge. So the construction industry at the moment is living an amazing time, in my opinion. We have massive opportunities ahead of us. If we just take care about or think about the next decade, between 2020 and 2030, there are really major works going on or that are going to happen. So we have major projects, like for instance, the Northern Powerhouse Rail, which is going to be constructed and built in the north. Thanks to the government initiative, or to one of the government initiatives, we have 40 hospitals to be built by 2030, which is a massive volume of work. And of course, we have all the work going on the HS2 side. Together with this, we also have some social housing work that will happen. And again, for another government initiative, we are tasked to build 300,000 new homes per year for the next few years. All of this is a massive volume of work to do, and it is also a beautiful opportunity for us to try to move toward a sustainable industry. Indeed, try to meet the government industrial strategy. So, all in all, this opportunity are really amazing, but nevertheless, also we have some challenges. Specifically, the challenge that I see, and I think they are the major one, are economic, environmental, and social sustainability. Specifically, economic sustainability is a challenge because, as we all know, constructions often are going in overruns, both in terms of time and in terms of money. Rarely what we predict is what is going to happen in terms of time and money. This, of course, negatively impacts the productivity and the profitability of the whole industry, which indeed is a challenge. Together with this, we have environmental sustainability issues. So the construction industry is always producing air pollution, water pollution, not only the construction industry, we as a civilization. And waste generation, not to mention how difficult it is and non-trivial it is to access primary resources to build. Together with this, also we have a defined sustainability challenge, the social one, where we are struggling at the moment to attract competitive people. So all in all, we have massive opportunities in front of us, but also we need to solve the challenge. So the next question is, how can we help the industry to profit from this situation, to profit the best out of the opportunities? In my opinion, the very first thing to do is to really think about the challenges and what are the sources of the challenges. In my opinion, there are two different sources, at least major sources. The first is that construction processes are very complex, and this is undeniable. Building something, any kind of man-made construction, is absolutely complicated because it has different layers of complexity, different system involved, so it is very, very difficult. The second thing is the lack of data-driven decision. We are living in a world where we have plenty of sensors recording massive amount of volume of data from everywhere and from any side in the construction. Often, these data are just sitting there without being used to take data insight, which is a problem, of course. Taken together, this means that we are dealing with something very complex as building a construction, And also, we cannot learn from the mistake, or learning from the mistake is difficult. And this means that we cannot learn properly when we compare different projects to take insight. So, in my view, machine learning is an ideal tool to deal with complexity of data and also to profit the most from all this data that, again, are sitting there that we can use really to progress as an industry. So the main point is, how can we do that? So what are the applications? The main application of machine learning so far is very ethereal. Well, in my view, there are three major applications. There is digitization, prediction, and optimization. Digitization is the field of the analysis that take care about acquiring data, taking data, for instance, from a document, and then milling up data set. And this data set can be completely standardized, allowing us to indeed compare different work. Prediction, as the name suggests, allows us to predict events or the behavior of certain systems in advance. And the consequence is that if we can predict the occurrence of an event, also we can try to avoid it, of course, if this event is negative. Optimization is the ability of artificial intelligence and machine learning to provide us with different solutions taken from different angles from problems that we have. And we can see that later on some examples. Altogether, we can build up solid data set. We can predict the occurrence of events, and also we can find solutions in order to avoid risk associated with this event. I'm aware that this sounds, again, really theoretical, so let's go down to some concrete examples. If we take any kind of construction, we can identify some major phases. So there is the concept, the design, the procurement, the pre-construction, and the construction phase. And we can see that we can really profit from AI in all of these different phases. If we take, for instance, the first two, concept and design, we saw that applications of artificial intelligence pertain the optimization of design. Then AI also can be used to predict better construction cost, as well as predict the accuracy of risk in terms of delay, which means that we are able to predict much better, much more accurately, both the runaway time and the cost. Not to mention the optimized construction process project plan. In this case, an example can be feeding an artificial neural network of the generative family with 50,000, 100,000 different pictures of designs, and then giving some constraints, allowing the artificial intelligence to come up with some optimal design that then we can evaluate or not. So the procurement also can profit quite substantially from machine learning and AI. Specifically, we can use these powerful tools to predict bid prices with much more accuracy, as well as to create a systematic tender price evaluation for the construction project, which allows us to use, for instance, a regularized regression to identify a window of cost where the bid price is most likely to happen. In this case, we can do the procurement much easier, much safer. And of course, one of my favorite, the construction and the pre-construction phases also are massively affected, or can be massively affected by AI. First of all, ticket document digitization can be used in order to acquire all the data from whatever activity happens on the site. In this case, we can track exactly what goes in and what goes out of the construction site. We can also optimize inventory management. In this way, all the material that we have on the side, we know where it is stored, we know, and we can predict the occurrence of damaging or loss of properties of these materials. Then we can also focus on the output of the construction site. For instance, we can use some AI algorithm in order to predict the risk associated with the accidents. And I will give you a concrete example later on. And then once we have to manage the waste, we can then optimize the way we reroute and we take care about the management waste. So all in all, what does it mean for us? This means that machine learning can be really useful to smooth the process in the construction site, at least in three ways. The first is to identify risk and then to mitigate the risk by using a combination of algorithm, by making use of the maximum amount of data that we are collecting in order to take data insight, as well as, most importantly, to close the loop between the design and the construction, which enable us to learn from experience. So, I'm aware that here there are a lot of information. PISA seems to be quite a cutting-edge technology, and by all means, it is very cutting-edge. But also, there are some startups out there that are really making fantastic works in order to take this cutting-edge technology and then taking that from theoretical problems down to real problems. We have end plants, for instance. We have sensors that are indeed using AI to predict better a timeline for the construction or to create digital twins that are much more available. Of course, at Qualys Flow, so we're using AI to make our job, and now I'm giving you 3 concrete examples about what we are doing on our side. So the first is digitization. So digitization is a problem that is affecting us all. So how many times a ticket can get lost or can be misread, or the information on a ticket can be just be misclassified on the system. We develop a solution based on optical character recognition and natural language processing that allow us directly taken from a picture to extract the relevant data, to capture them, and then to store them in a system. So here we have an example which hopefully will work. This is just a prototype, taking the very hard to read picture on the left. Then we submit it to our solution, and then we were able to indeed identify the relevant fields and then to take them out. Apologies for the verticality of the picture. Another example is a prediction of exceedances. So once we work with one of our clients, we were tasked to predict the concentration of several pollutants on the construction site. It was really exciting from my point of view because it was a fairly complicated problem. So basically, we imported the data coming from sensors located on the construction site, where these sensors were measuring different concentration of different pollutants like PM1, PM4, PM10. And then we ran an algorithm from the family of the recurrent neural network that are really well designed to analyze time series, like in this case, how a pollutant can change over time. And at the end of the analysis, we were able to accurately predict the outcome, so the concentration of a pollutant, up to 12 hours in advance. As you can see here on the plots, both of them are showing the concentration of the pollutant over time. The solid line is the concentration indeed recorded, while the dotted line, the dotted points are our predictions against the real value. And as you can see, the pattern is almost overlapping. So this, of course, the implication is that this technology can be used, this solution can be used to predict exceedances. And therefore, with 12 hours in advance, we can try to reorganize the work, stop the work on the construction in order to decrease the possibility of having this exceedance. The third example is about the optimization, about the waste movement. Just by measuring the location of the different facilities, disposal facilities in London, and the difference between the distance between TISA and the construction site of our clients, we're able to reorganize the best route, and then the clients saved 100 tons of kilograms of CO2 from the air. So these are just 3 examples, quite concretely. So we went from really larger theoretical applications down to really concrete applications. But what are the implications of using machine learning in our construction industry? So if under normal circumstances, like we're working now, the predicted price and the predicted time for any kind of construction is rarely matching the real one, with machine learning, we can have a much better estimate about the time and the money required for us to complete any kind of man-made construction. It goes without saying that this can save us millions, as well as a month, if not years, of work. And just to conclude here, again, we're living in an amazing moment as an industry. So together with our opportunities, we also have different challenges. And these were the challenges that we mentioned before: economic, environmental, and social. Hopefully, I try to convince you that using machine learning and AI can help us really to mitigate these challenges. Specifically, we can address the economic sustainability by reducing the possibility of having overruns, both in terms of time and money. We can address the environmental sustainability by reducing the chance of polluting the environment, as well as the social sustainability. And this is perhaps one of the most exciting points. We can help the construction to attract talent just by embracing this change, by embracing this powerful technology and also the technological change that is happening now. So I think this is it. Thank you so much for your time, and again for having me here.
Fantastic. That was excellent. Thank you, Michel. Very, very interesting indeed. Very good. Stuart, have you got some questions or anything coming through?
We've got quite a few actually. Yeah, just bear with me a second. Let me just.
We can still sort of. I think what you're doing, Stuart, is you're sharing your screen rather than sharing the presentation, which is why we get your pop-outs and a frozen picture.
I don't know what the issue is with this. Just bear with me.
That might just be easiest to do it like that.
Yeah. How does that appear?
Perfect.
Okay. Right.
Amazing.
So I've just reset it. So technology is a help, but it's also occasionally a hindrance, it seems. Yes. Okay. So let me just look at our lineup. Right. We've got quite a few questions. Please do keep the questions coming in. I'd like to see a few more in there. We've got a couple the same, but first question. Michel, I'll aim this one at you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Right. Can we just bring the webcams back in now then? Yeah.
I think
So
we've got a few hiccups with webcams, Stuart. Both Finn and Brittany are a little webcam short, unfortunately.
Okay. Right, never mind. Okay, so what we'll do here, I'll just ask the question on the mic. Michel, what is the biggest challenge that the industry has in embracing AI currently?
I think in my opinion, the biggest challenge is to follow blindly the hype around AI and machine learning. Because at the moment, if we check the news and we just open any kind of media, we see artificial intelligence as a name everywhere, happening everywhere. And sometimes there is the risk of thinking that it's just a magical wand that can just be used to solve all our problems. Of course, this is not the case. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are tools, and like every tools, need to be used wisely. So the major problem is just to follow blindly, follow disillusion, and then drop this technology thinking that it doesn't work or makes sense.
Okay.
Can I also sort of put a thought process in that one as well, Stuart, whilst we're here?
Yeah, of course.
Carry on.
I see one of the biggest problems of putting out AI into our industry at the moment is the lack of good quality data for the machine to learn from and for the artificial intelligence to use. We have got a mass of data, but the chances are it's not correct, it's not up to date, it's not trustworthy, it's not valuable. And with anything we learn, you put crap in and you get crap out.
Yes, definitely yes.
And I see the only way we're going to really embrace this artificial intelligence, because there are some incredible opportunities here. I really am very excited about the possibility of AI and what it can do for us. But until we get that data right and trustworthy and well structured so it can be found and learned from, then we're sort of in a bit of a, sort of the red light's on, but there's no green light go, because
I think I could definitely explain that. So I was chatting to Martin Parver, obviously did last happy hour, and he's reached out to the state and particularly right now.
So, Brittany, you might have to just get a little bit closer to the. I'm afraid a bit closer to the phone. You're breaking up a bit on that.
Is that any better?
It's a little bit, yes, yeah.
Sorry, I talked to Martin about this, who obviously did last week's session. When Jade started, we wanted to say the data that the industry had, and unfortunately, found is exactly what you said. The data quality currently in the industry is so poor, it's so incomplete, and it's data formats that it was impossible to do. Of machine learning was actually that first one that Michele showed, which was taking paper tickets and turning those into usable digital formats in a structured and clean way. And so the first big step and the first big challenge for this industry to really be able to capitalize on AI is to get its data into a consistent, complete and structured digital format, and one that people trust as well. And I think you said that, Ian, is that do we trust our data? And at the moment, we massively undervalue it because we don't trust it. And we need to rebuild that relationship by making sure that we are capturing it in a consistent and clean format so that we can rebuild that trust in our data as well.
So just sort of following up on that one, Michelle, and probably Vin as a question here. Do people actually, because that value has to come from the client in the first place.
Yeah.
Because if somebody doesn't pay you for something, you don't value it as such. So therefore, if you're not being, being contracted to buy some information, you don't value that information. So therefore, it's just you don't value the quality of it as such.
Yeah.
So, but do you think that buying that information in the first place, we've actually got to change how we do that, and perhaps using machine learning and AI might be able to influence that within the contract world?
Yeah, probably. Good question. So I think that definitely, as both you and Brittany said, having a sort of a data set, but not only that, having the culture of acquiring data in a kind of a reliable way is the very first and foremost thing to do. As for your question, definitely comes from I think a better education of generally speaking, who is using machine learning in this field, also from clients to listen to that. Because as soon as a client can see values in this technology, then, and of course, for this technology to work, we need data. Then the client most likely is going to invest on the data, good quality data. Because otherwise, as I said before, we can have all the most beautiful, top-notch algorithms, but cannot be interrupt. So that would be difficult. But I think I'm hopeful, and I can start to see that change happening.
Yeah, that would be very good. Stuart, what's the next questions we've got on the list from the attendees? Okay,
I was going to ask the next question. I wondered if Vin wanted to come in there at all. Vin, have you got anything to add?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting about the camera. My Mac doesn't seem to want to allow access to you for some reason.
Oh, that's the same problem I had then, so it must be a Mac thing.
Yeah, it's Mac and go to whatever it's called, and obviously not happy with each other. So I got a slightly different perspective in a sense of, I think there's one thing about all the data you need to collect. I think my interest here is also in when you make predictions, how you get people in the end to have confidence in those predictions, because increasingly with this stuff you're creating black boxes of algorithms or whatever wonderful stuff's in there, and where you've got situations where you can predict something and that's you can actually do that yourself, like how you might expect a car to drive, you can actually make that check quite easily. But once you start predicting things that that's too complex for the human to some sense to predict, then how do you make those checks and how do you give people confidence? And there's an increasing number of applications around generally, not in construction, where people are saying, I can take all this data, I can mash it up, and I can use AI and machine learning, and I can give you an answer. And I have no way on earth to be able to check that. So I think we, alongside introducing these applications, we have to learn how to check, how to test, it may mean different things. You know, how simply when you do a complex Excel thing, you check, you do some checksums, don't you, to make sure it's realistic. But I think here we start to move into territory where that's quite difficult, and we need clever ways of testing and confidence building as well as the actual algorithms themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. Sorry, Michelle, go on.
If I can say just this beautiful comment, and indeed transparency is a key, a primary thing to achieve in the field of machine learning, independently when it is applied to construction or confined just to academic environment. But definitely transparency is something we need to work on, because there is some sort of there are some tasks where you can right away test the prediction accuracy of your algorithms. So even though it is a black box, you don't know how a certain solution happen. If you're able to predict a certain event, and then you have to the ability to verify that event, like you need air pollution or the occurrence of I don't know, an earthquake, for instance, then you can right away verify your algorithm. But for some other tasks, then it's becoming more difficult. And indeed, I also heard a lot of people saying, oh, I have data, whatever the data are, I put them in the AI washing machine, and I can predict everything, which of course is detrimental for the field.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask the next question? Michelle, this is for you. How do you see the evolution of emerging technology in the construction industry? I mentioned emerging technology as one of the aspects that Commit is involved with, but how do you see it in the construction industry?
Beautiful. Honestly, this is something that is really making me super excited, because historically the construction industry is falling right a bit behind with respect to other industries, at least from my point of view. But the main point is that independent of the industry, now we are living in a moment where telecommunication is improving with, for instance, the G5. We can have Internet of Things, which is becoming ubiquitous. So we have more and more sensors tracking more and more data and phenomena. We have also more computational abilities, more powerful computer in small spaces with more defined algorithms. So we will see most likely a revolution in the construction industry, where robotics probably will come in, where we can use drones. We can use drones mixed with other technologies like indeed AI, in order to really optimize the construction process. And not only the construction process, but also the impact of construction on the environment. So yeah, okay. I'm really excited about that.
Okay, Brittany, any thoughts on that? Ian, Vin?
I've just got a quick thought. I think one of the interesting things is I think quite often is that a lot of the technologies that exist is obviously how you actually apply them to an industry, and construction is no different than anywhere else, and maybe, as people say, it lags a little bit. I think the current crisis is actually giving tremendous impetus to digitization and digital and all those sorts of things. And it's not now just something interesting to do, but actually it becomes really important to know where people are in this sort of thing. And actually it's not just interesting to collaborate online. Actually now it's essential to collaborate online because there's no other way of doing it. So I think without going too far into the future, I think getting to grips with some of the current technologies that we know can be used is important. And actually the current crisis can actually provide the platform for some of that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Brittany, you had something to add there?
Well, to be fair, I was just going to completely agree with Vin there. I think there's been mixed responses to COVID. Some people are, really capitalizing on it to push technological developments within their own companies. Some people are freaking out and focusing on bugs, which is fine. There's different approaches, but I think those who will come out on top are the ones who are really not wasting a good crisis and using that to push technological advancement. I think with the construction industry in particular, we are always going to be somewhat behind the technological curve because, in part, because our history of the development industry, but also because of the risks associated with it and the way that we're set up commercially. And the technology that we are applying in Qflow is technology that's been well tested in other areas, like, for example, finance. Recognition for reading tickets is readily used as receipts. We are just simply repurposing it. And I think the main way that we benefit is looking at those other industries and saying, okay, how are their problems similar to ours, and how have they solved them using technology, and how can we repurpose that? So there has to be a big, scary shift and leap into the dark place of new technology. Really, we're taking old tech and just making it work for us, and that's where the opportunity lies.
Okay, Ian, any comments to finish that one off?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, thanks very much for the questions and the answers as well. So I'm going to take some more from the floor now. The next question I've got here is from Paul Barker. How do you hook into a construction project and identify those who have best opportunity to demonstrate the value of AI or your service? Michelle, can I ask
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
did you get that? Did you hear that?
Yes. So
okay.
I think that from my side, and I'm just talking about the analytical side, having access to data is the key primary goal. If we know that first of all, the client is able to provide us with the data and is willing to provide us with the data, and the data looks sound, then for me that is a very, very good basis to start doing the work. But again, I'm talking like an analyst, so no, it's just confined. Maybe someone else also can give you a more business-oriented answer.
Yeah, from a commercial perspective, we've worked with all kinds. So, from the cutting edge private and Landsec who are really pushing the boundaries and adopt new tech, all the way down to local councils. Started working with Dorset Council. The way that who work with us is partly what Michele said in terms of that, are they willing to share? Are they willing to open up this space and explore how their data is valuable to them? But also, do they have a pain point that they feel so significantly in their business that they will try something to fix it? And so the first group that we worked with was Canary, and they had such an intense pain around managing sustainable timber tracking. So they have to check the FSC certification of all timber that comes on site. And that was a purely paper-based manual process, and it was tripping them up every single month. It was costing them so much money and time. And so they were willing to, young, about 2 years ago now, and take the risk on a new technology to see if they could fix it. And it's that approach and that mindset that this industry will really benefit from, is actually saying, I feel this pain and I'm not willing to just put up with it anymore. I'm going to try something different to see if I can fix it using technology, knowing it not work, that we open up the space to get there. And then we have access to right data, and we can get into Michele's team so they can reprocess.
Thanks, Brittany. We lost you a little bit there, but yeah, thank you very much for that. Okay, so I've got a couple more questions here. The next one is, Pete. It's Roger Jones. Roger, I'm going to bring you in, but before I do that, I would just like to ask the question. This is from Peter Vale. Ian mentioned that the quality and trust of information is a hindrance. My question is, who does Michele think should lead this, and how to achieve the benefits you indicated in the presentation? So Michele, did you get that?
Yeah, partially. So who is going to drive the quality of the data?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Oh, okay. So I think I think it needs to come from a collaboration, a close collaboration between clients and us in this case, or whoever is working with the client, because the collaboration, the relation doesn't need it must not be univocal. So it's not that the client can say, "Oh, I would like for you to do something. Here is the data, and that's the end of my story." It needs to be more interactive. So who is taking care about the data needs to be from both, because probably there are several opportunities, several cases. The client can have the data, probably, maybe is not willing to share it. Then this could be a source problem. On the other side, the client can have the data and can be willing to share, and this is beautiful because then it's very synergistic. On the other side, the data can be collected or not. So it's kind of it's like a dance.
Okay, we've got Peter in. Peter, would you like to come back and respond on that?
No, you're right. I mean, it's all about how we collaborate. So what I was really trying to get to is we do, as Ian said, have poor data, and it's really a case of, we talk about realizing these benefits in clients, but what is driving those clients to actually make the right decisions? And then when we look at the sort of the wider sort of context around the Gemini principles of what the government are trying to do with Digital Build Britain and digital twins, it's really just focusing on, these are very much small pieces, and actually, yes, a client, but what do you make that? How do you make that client believe their investment to realize those benefits? And that's really the hard part that we've got, is the cost versus outcome. And it's all about that benefit realization that I really think it doesn't exist, or is not trusted, at least in construction.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. It's a bit chicken and egg, because data, the value of the data only sits with how well you use it. And a big champion of the Gemini principles is obviously Mark Enzer from MOTS, and I think MOTS has got a really nice clear case study of where they have committed to getting good quality, consistent data for their Moata platform, and that has yielded huge returns for them as a company. They are now, leagues ahead of some of the other consultants, and they're really making a cold hard cash out of having a way of both capturing that data but also using it to make it valuable for the client, and so the client is realizing those benefits, but so is MOTS as a result. And I think the more people that we see stepping up and committing and actually investing, like putting up that capital cash and saying, we're going to invest in getting this right now, and then in 2 years' time we will have something that really is raking in the benefits for both us and our clients. And I think the more we see companies do that, the more the follower clients will start to do that too, and eventually we will see a change. But this industry is not comfortable with the bold steps.
You're right. I'm playing devil's advocate because I work with MOTS on the MOTS with Mark Enzer on the infrastructure client group and the government. But the key thing is to make sure that we talk about collaboration, but we are all joined up. So it's great that we talk about innovation happening, but there needs to be this idea that we don't try and relearn, we try and share knowledge. And you're right, if we all go to MOTS, but what did it take for them to succeed? Because that's the same message that we need to start to sort of proliferate across the industry. And it's good to try and hear what people are saying, because I'm an advocate for all of this, but the idea is I still see that people are looking at different perspectives, and we need to go on that sort of journey, but not stop the innovation.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks guys. Appreciate your answers there. The next question I've got, if I can, is bring in Roger Jones. Roger, the mic's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ian, for getting my camera up the right way. I've been turning my iPad and gesticulating, messaging. Anyway, so having said that, what I'd like to do is actually share a personal experience and hopefully pull together a few of the things that have been said here, because it started from the great examples of AI. And I had a privilege a few years ago to work for the Ordnance Survey, and their research team down there at the time were doing things with augmented reality, which was very cool and very sexy, and you could see it was quite exciting. And could I see an application for it? Could I see how it could come in? And I just that was one thing that kind of left me cold. And it's interesting, a number of things they were doing around that time are actually mainstream now. I mean, what 3 words was sort of bubbling out when I was at the OS way back. But the reason I'm trying to bring that in is I saw a Microsoft presenting on AI this week, and they were basically taking PDFs and using the Azure services to scrape those PDFs and create a database from that, which is quite similar to your example. I think what we need to do, I think, picking up on that your point example there, and Brittany's point, and the point about driving things into the industry. I think what we need to do is we need to take a realization of existing pain to a customer and say, this is the problem you have, and this is how we can use this technology to remove that problem. Because it's getting somebody to visualize a solution. I've got something really cool here, and if you can think of something really good to do with it, it'd be fantastic for you. Isn't going to move us forward. And I know that's a bit trite. I'm not trying to tell everybody to suck eggs, but I think from a sales perspective, I think if we can take something to someone and say, look, here's a problem, they accept it's a problem, here's a solution, there's a solution. And I think because of, if we look at what Bentley's doing around digital twins, it's the message is it starts from the design stage, and the story, like the sort of tagline, goes right through the whole life cycle. But you almost need to tell the customer, when you get to this point in the journey, having done this at step 1 will benefit you here. Because you've done A and B, when you get to C, and it kind of expands itself out. And that way, I think we can maybe go in baby steps, but make the solution easy to swallow. Yeah. Sorry, long ramble. Hope it helped.
Yeah, I think there's a really good point there about sort of leading people on the journey. I think there's 2 challenges that particularly we come up against, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. But so one is that, firstly, sometimes the industry isn't willing to fully admit the problem. So it will sort of speak to people in a very casual environment, and they'll go, oh God, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. And then you're like, okay, we can fix that. And they're like, okay, actually, well, we've always done it this way. And the idea of changing anything is just too terrifying for us. And the emotional cost to them of switching from this paper-based process to a digital process is just too high. Or maybe the pain isn't great enough, even though they vocalize it so much. So one challenge, I think, is that sometimes the industry is so comfortable in its painful position that it doesn't really want to get rid of the pain. The other side of that is that when we do get clients who are really keen to try new things, sometimes they over-solutionize. So they'll come to us with a problem and a solution. Or they'll come to us with a problem and we'll say, okay, we could try this. And they're like, oh no, that won't work because, and we're like, hang on a minute, you don't necessarily fully understand the capability of the technology. So when we talked about air quality predictions, they're like, no, you'll never be able to do that. No, you'll never be able to tell us 12 hours in advance what the air quality will be. And you're like, okay, trust us to know the technology, let us present that to you and then see whether that's something you can work with. And so there's a risk equally with the opposite side, where the industry tries to over-solutionize or doesn't believe that technology can help them. And they maybe aren't, giving the space for those technological solutions to enter into their lives. I don't know whether you've seen that too, Roger, or anything like that.
Yeah, elements of it. I mean, one common one I've seen is where I might talk to this person in the sort of hierarchy and sort of stakeholder to end user, and the end user might have pain, but if you solve that pain, the business has technically got, the end user's got no job. Well, the end user's not going to. So that's kind of one, and the other one is you might have a fantastic solution, and if you sell it to the stakeholder at the top and say, I'm going to save your company £10 million a year, okay, well, the end user might need to find a new job, or be brought into a new part of the solution. But we need to sell it from a point of view of it's not a threat, and I've seen the threat fear in many forms. But I think the having got to the point where you and the end user agree the problem, you then need to agree what the output and what the value is. And I think once you understand the output and the value, you're then starting to move in the direction of how do you put a process in place to bring the solution in, and possibly in it's almost like baby steps. So pilot it, so you can bring a small piece of it in, demonstrate it.
Yeah, I thought Brittany gave a really good thought piece there about trusting the people that actually are part of your team. So, you know, we find that, and we found that quite a lot throughout the history of Commit, is that construction companies as a whole don't specifically trust technology vendors because potentially they've been selling them lemons every now and then the technology vendor doesn't quite trust the construction company because the construction company hasn't been paying the bills for many, many years. And there's that little bit of distrust between the two. And what we've been trying to do in the Commit world is bring those two together and get a bit more trust in all the teams. But I think it's really important to trust the experts in your team, whether your team is an extended supply chain that involves a technology vendor or somebody who supplies a widget or a gadget or a service, because that's their business. That's what they know best. And we've got to build up that little bit of trust between the two organisations. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a big challenge in this part as we bring new technology like AI on board, where everybody's got a bit of an opinion on it as such, and we've got to trust the experts. I'll put my hand up right away. I love it. Sounds great, but I have no idea how it works. So I'm not going to try and advise anybody on AI. I'll leave that to you, Michelle.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Is there any more thoughts, Vin? Have you got anything else to?
Yeah, just a thought on what Ian was saying. I think I understand the point about trusting technology and all that sort of thing, but a lot of technology, we and others are experts in the technology. We're not experts in your industry, and it shouldn't be seen as a buy a bit of tech, or we shouldn't be throwing a bit of technology at you and hoping you can use it, or vice versa, using just getting a bit of technology and hope it's all going to work. It should actually be a much more collaborative thing. I mean, some things you can buy on that basis. You can buy your beer on that basis, or your gin maybe, if I'm not sure. But you know, these things have impact on people and processes and things as well. Absolutely, yeah. So I think it's AI, visualization, all these sort of technologies require, you know, potential change in the organization, not just a bit of, it's not just a new handset or something. It's more complex than that. So I think it has to be both parts. You can't, neither can we offload it all to you, nor can you offload it all back to technologists. It's actually a joint thing that has to happen to make it work.
Yeah, and to add to what was mentioned there, and Ian said, is the collaboration part of it's really important. I mean, to come together in the platform that Commit is, that it's an opportunity to come discuss, get out in the open, share with other operators, be them EPCs or whatever vendors, and look at the future and decide, what do I need 12 bells and whistles, or do I just need 2? I've heard from several contractors in the past 18 months where the subject of project controls is an incredibly emotive subject when it comes to contractors and what works and what doesn't. And we were given this, and yes, it's fantastic in this area, but it doesn't do that. It doesn't do one part which is really essential. Having said that, it's a huge stride forward from where they were. Now, there is an opportunity to make some improvements to that, rather than having one part of a system. It maybe needs another part, and I think through collaborating and sharing with other contractors or other engineering companies, there may be an opportunity to share best practice or outcomes from that. And again, that's where Commit comes in. And going back to what I mentioned earlier, Commit to Productivity, that is an opportunity to share some points of learning and help move things forwards. So we have no more questions that I can see, but having said that, the questions box is flashing. So I think we're probably about done. The clock is buzzing in my ear just now. Indeed. So with that, I will say, just to finish off my last few slides, thanks very much for everybody, the panelists. Thanks very much for the questions. Thanks very much to Michelle. to Brittany, to Vin, thanks to Ian, thanks to Jerry, thanks to everybody that's participated today and made this possible. Thanks also to our sponsors O2 and Rebim. Please do join the conversation. We've got various channels there, so through Twitter, LinkedIn. The recordings, all recordings are converted and posted on the YouTube channel. They're also available through the website, and yeah, watch out through Facebook and LinkedIn for the next invitation. Of course, Jerry will follow up as well in the meanwhile. And thanks very much. Anything else from anybody else on the floor?
Just a few bits, Stuart. Obviously, some of the conversations want to run a little bit here. So for the time being, if you want to carry on chatting about this particular topic or any other topics, do come and find us on LinkedIn. We'll kick that topic off, and hopefully some of the panel, Vin, Brittany and Michelle, will be able to come in and answer some of the additional questions in there. That would be good. We're looking at putting a proper forum into the commit page at some point on the website that can help us to bring these conversations together into one place rather than having them scattered and those knowledge sharing opportunities lost. But it just brings me to wrap up today, to thank everybody very much indeed, and to raise a glass to you all to stay very safe. Stay well in your self-isolations, wherever you might be, and also to toast tomorrow, hence the reason for the tie today, to VE Day and the generation before us who helped us to be where we are today. So your jolly good health, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.